Kent. Bordering Greater London, Surrey, Essex, East Sussex, and connecting England to mainland Europe by a Channel Tunnel link, is one of the home counties of England, with a very pivotal location. Its proximity to London and continental Europe has led to its being the front line of battles on many occasions, whilst its bounty of hop gardens and orchards has earned it the Garden of England title that it upholds to this day. Although Kent's traditional industry has been agricultural, it's one of the warmest regions of the country, so it's historically been a tourist hotspot. It's easy to see why Kent's coastline is attractive to holidaymakers, as it houses the most blue flag beaches of any county in the country, whilst a series of ridges and valleys has created an abundance of impressive landforms. Kent's geology showcases an extreme variety of rock, beginning with the freshwater sandstones and clays of North Kent, and resulting in the gaunt clay of Folkestone or the chalk of the Tower's highest cliffs, surrounding the town and indeed port of Ramsgate, which sits comfortably in a shallow valley. Kent's array of rock structures came about during the erosion of the Wealden Dome, which consists of an upper layer of chalk as well as the likes of gaunt clay and Wealden sandstone. Depending on its situation in Kent, anything from green sand to sandstone has been found underneath settlements across the county. Kent's hydrology is a rich area of study, but not always because of its picturesque coastline. This documentary will consider both Kent's coastal and freshwater strengths, but also the management of these, which helps make up part of Kent's H2O. Our study begins at one of Kent's smaller waterways, which trickles along until it joins the River Medway. The tributary is a stretch of covered water which spans a distance of approximately 6 kilometres on a route that goes straight through Tunbridge. This is Penn Stream, a small woodland channel which is characterised by its steep banks. Although it's easily accessible to the local community, it suffers because of this. The stream's banks are in decline because of erosion, and this has been enhanced by dogs running in and out of the water here. The big problem with this is that there's an established path which is in danger of collapse. Medway Valley Countryside Partnership submitted a proposal to tackle this erosion along a 1.2 km stretch of the stream. It was hoped this river revetment work would contain the erosion, and TAG volunteers were enlisted to complete the work.
The Environment Agency didn't want a hard engineering solution, so they didn't want galions and stones which would have created a completely sort of artificial channel. We want to maintain the naturalness of the channel, if you like. So it's a mixture of putting in chestnut stakes, a geotextile weave which will allow the plants to grow through, and then backfilling it with type 1 aggregate and soil to provide a medium for the plants to grow in. It's partly a logistics thing. It's finding jobs that are appropriate for the volunteers, because some of them are more sort of physically dynamic and able than the others. Then some of them have to go in the stream, and so we have to be conscious of the risks of that, although the water levels are quite low. Then some people prefer construction things, so it's a question of trying to find jobs for the people who have actually turned up on the day. Difficulty for us is we don't know how many volunteers we're necessarily going to get. Sometimes it'll be a smallish number like today, which is 8 or 9. Other times we'll have 15 or 16. It can be difficult juggling more than that because you just don't necessarily have enough jobs to give out to people, but this is about the right sort of balance. In the long run, we hope it will improve the quality of the stream because there'll be less bank erosion, less silt, less turbid water. If you look, it's very dirty at the moment. I mean, that's largely down to the rain that we've been having. But if you're allowing the natural vegetation to generate on the sides, then ultimately you should have less silt in the stream. You should have more sands and gravels, more pools and riffles, which are good for invertebrates and then fish to spawn. So we're intending that this sort of soft engineering solution it isn't detrimental to the quality of the water in the stream. In fact, it's beneficial to the quality of the water.
Soft engineering is that works to protect the natural ecosystem of a stream as effectively as possible. In contrast, hard engineering can sometimes be a quicker solution, but can often lead to the deterioration of poor and riffle habitats, which the team are working very hard to protect. It's hoped that the engineering won't need to be replenished, but with the possibility of extreme weather on its way, annual inspections are vital. The management at Penn Stream was coordinated over the stretch being protected. This is very similar to the policy used at the coastline, where the strategy would be called a shoreline management plan. This is Reculver, part of the North Kent coastline. The shoreline management plan here runs from the Isle of Grain to Dover Docks. The idea of a shoreline management plan is to ensure that the engineering carried out along the coastline isn't detrimental to another seafront. Instead, all of the sites incorporated under the title work together to protect both themselves and indeed each other. The Reculver section of this plan incorporates the coastline down to Minnis Bay, but the big problem here is that there is a severe east to west littoral drift. This means that without the use of groins, the beach would be displaced to Herne Bay. Reculver is managed because of its archaeological value, as well as its important heritage, so the best management here is rock, as there's never been much of a beach. The rock acts as a breakwater to protect the seawall behind. Meanwhile, Reculver Country Park is not protected because it's not cost effective to do so. Carrying out engineering here would be very expensive, and the land behind is not of value to do so. This is the policy for the next 200 years, during which the erosion rate should be 1 to 2 metres a year. Botany Bay is a stark contrast to Reculver because it simply isn't managed. This is due to the fact that it doesn't need to be. Despite being only approximately 20 kilometres from Reculver, erosion rates are much lower. Furthermore, the beach acts as a natural sea defence, so the sea isn't given the opportunity to erode the cliffs behind. The site has also been internationally recognised as a blue flag site, which makes council action difficult. This is because the natural beauty of the site can't be compromised without the removal of the award. The management at Reculver has to be replaced relatively often, with the last work being carried out here in 1997. Usually, the management is replaced here every 50 years, which is something agencies at Botany Bay are not faced with the problem of. In 10 years' time, Reculver is due to be assessed, and Canterbury City Council are hoping not to have to renew the management.
The actual policy between Reculver and Minnis Bay is actually in the next 20 to 50 years to probably let the defences gradually fail and allow salt flats to form there, because it's only agricultural land, and providing it doesn't go back any further than the railway, which obviously must be defended, then that can happen. The counter-argument to this case is that, with food shortages worldwide, is it really a good idea to give up perfectly good agricultural land to the sea? Canterbury City Council do have to consider the cost though, because they've spent on average £1 million a year for 3 decades on the 20 kilometre of coastline that they help, and some people would argue that this money could be better spent elsewhere in the system. Interestingly, humans can actually have a small impact on how much money is spent on management in the area, because of their bait digging. Furthermore, at seafronts similar to Minnis Bay, the timber groins are burnt by our barbecues, which is also the case at Romney Warren sand dunes, where the sand dune fencing is also destroyed. This is a natural sea defence. Elsewhere in the country, our influence on the environment is perhaps more obvious. This is arguably the case in Margate. In Margate, it's humans that are actually compromising the environment. In June 2012, a Southern Water sewage pumping station failed, which led to Thanet District Council having to shut all beaches. Subsequently, beach cleaners and litter pickers started work to clean up the coastline as quickly as possible. Precautions were actually already in place to limit such anomalies.
We take 20 bacteriological samples a year, so we'll have our sampling teams come out normally once a week and take a sample at a random time, at a random point in the tidal cycle as well, which is quite important. So we'll take something called a bacteriological sample, which is in a small plastic container such as this. This is sealed, so no bacteria can get inside the bottle, and it's kept refrigerated in our vans. We then send it by courier to our labs, our National Laboratory Service, who are based in Exeter. They then grow cultures of the bacteria that's in here, and they then publish the results, and we then publish the results on our website, and we share the results with the local authority, so in this case Thanet District Council.
These results must meet mandatory standards of 2,000 counterbacteria per 100 millilitres of water. Surpassing this is classed as a mandatory failure. Results are also shared with Keep Britain Tidy, who take them into account by designating blue flag sites. Sometimes anomalous events disrupt this water quality, and the Environment Agency operate an important role in the aftermath of such an event.
We'll be working with the sewage undertaker, like the sewage company who's in charge of optimisation, to get it fixed as soon as possible, and we'll work with them and the local authority to clear up the beaches. So, for instance, if there's sewage rag on the beaches, so debris, like wet wipes and tissue and sanitary pads and all that nasty stuff, we'll work with Thanet Council and the sewage undertaker to get that cleared off the beaches as soon as possible.
The recent pumping station failure could have had a much bigger impact on Margate because it's prone to flooding. This is why the Environment Agency has funded £6.2 million for a flood protection scheme in the area. Although the engineering will take over a year to complete, it will provide a great deal of protection. Despite this, people are still looking for alternatives to the sewage overflows that are currently in use, which creates some questions for the Environment Agency.
Is having sewage overflows the right thing, or is there a better way of having these sewage overflows? Because, you know, if we don't have these sewage overflows going to the sea, then the extra sewage backs up the sewage pipes and overflows into people's houses. So obviously we don't want that, but also we don't want the sewage getting into the sea as well. So there's like a bit of a balancing act between it. So we'll look at that and like work with our partner organisations really to try and find ways of improving the bathing water.